Yes, it was quite a difficult way to go with this, is how deep you want to take this. Cybersecurity can be very, very deep and boring, actually, some people think. So I have had a kind of worked with both sides of the spectrum with regards to proper developers, programmers, some real big hackers, and then also sort of bosses who are trying to make head or tail out of it, because it can be very confusing with all the acronyms. So I've only kind of shared sort of some that maybe might be pertinent to you with your business, and maybe looking at your home workers and how that kind of goes. So yeah, so the little button doesn't work, so I'll try this one. So we're going to start off with what is cybersecurity then, because there's all sorts of jargon going on. Cybersecurity is geared to protecting computer systems and information systems from unauthorized access, basically, stopping them, making them damaged or unavailable. Cybersecurity focuses generally on electronic data, whereas you've got information security, which is on the next slide, which we'll talk about there. There's a few terms you might have heard, though, stuff like pen testing, vulnerability assessments, IT health checks, cybercrime, definitely. Phishing, everyone goes fishing. Well, all the hackers like to go fishing. Ransomware, absolutely. So yeah, cybersecurity, it is very much a buzzword, but it comes out of cybersec complements massively information security which is a broader topic. So whereas cybersecurity is more focused on electronic attacks and all your electronic data and your electronic systems, information security encompasses the lot with regards to physical security and a bit of paper. So just a little bit of paper, that's data, or that's information. So information security is the whole thing. So before all this madness, before the zombie apocalypse, what did you have? You had all your risks were under control, your businesses were under control, all your data was secure, your mitigations were in place, your processes were secure, you had combined physical, logical, and procedural security all squared away. Basically, you had Fort Knox, which was kind of you. Well, hopefully that's what you was. So you had defense in depth, which is one security method into another security. If they bypass one area, they've got to get through the next and the next and the next, which is what you're aiming for with information security and cyber. If a hacker gets through your firewall, then it's the next hurdle for them to get over. Bring your own devices was only being discussed, maybe. Working from home was for the few and not for the whole. Okay, so by understanding your risks is how you got there. You got Fort Knox by understanding what your organization did, who wanted to hurt you, and you kind of put remediations in place and mitigations. You was linking confidentiality, integrity, and availability to protect your information assets. So we all need to understand how risk kind of is formed, and with regards to information security, you've got threats, you've got the hacker. Now, at the moment, there's loads more of these threats because there's loads more hackers. Some of them are on furlough. Some of them are bored and they're sat there doing nothing, and they say, what can I do? Let's go and hack somebody just for the kudos. So you've threats and you've got vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities are a hole in your system. There's a way in. Imagine the threat is the thief and the vulnerability is you've left the door open. So you've got to attack these. So a threat and vulnerability makes risk. So if we remove the threat or we remove the vulnerability, we haven't got any risk left. There's no risk there. So we can treat one way or the other way, or both, which is even better. So what threats are out there then? Are you more of a target now? Yes, you are. The same threat actors still want to harm you. The same threat actors who before wanted to steal your data, they're still out there. Your competitors, all these people would love to see your data. The influx of new devices from working from home. It's basically there's so much, people were dusting laptops off that have been in stores. So they're all old software and it wasn't configured properly. So we did band-aid solutions. We did quick fixes. BYOD, bring your own devices, was kind of thrown at this. Everyone was had to go home. They had to produce. They had to keep carrying on working. And it was basically get it done. It was a can-do attitude, and nobody had time to prepare. And it was just like, get on it. But they go home, their networks, are they secure? Probably not. Now, is your mobile phone that you issued to people, are they secure? People are sending emails on their mobile phones. People are doing all sorts of work, which is kind of bypassing all the security which you've been putting into your Fort Knox for the last 20 years. These are basically some people out there. You've got criminals, you've got hacktivists, you've got criminal hackers. They're the professionals, the ones there. You've got competitors who will maybe employ these criminal hackers. You've got foreign nations. By far the biggest problem, though, is disgruntled employees, or internal threats are kind of the worst in general. There's some stats here. I'll kind of let you have a look at them with regards to that, purely because I can't. They're on the screen. And I believe if it's being recorded, you'll be able to look at them later on. But these are brand new stats. These are this year's stats. So things are on the increase as usual. Yeah, ransomware. We're going to talk about ransomware in a little while, but ransomware it's kind of very dangerous. Okay, so social engineering. Criminals love significant global events. They play on people's fears. They play on their isolation. Try not to allow your staff to be isolated. Let's get communication paths going. If they've got a problem, they've got a weird email that they think, oh, this is strange. Let's allow them the ability, bring up groups like Slack groups or Yammer, some way the team groups, somewhere they can quickly check with their friends. Have you had this email? I've had this email. Have we all got to submit our data? So yeah, it's a little bit like your family members who are not as tech savvy. They want to ask somebody before they go ahead and press buttons. So do that. So we've got phishing. So phishing, but it's not just emails. It's phone calls. They're ringing you up and they're saying, we need this. There's the big one that's been happening for the last 10 years is the Microsoft scam, where everyone's ringing in. They're saying, we're from Microsoft and we've got to fix your computer. Please allow me access. Now, that kind of tricked lots and lots of people, and they were sending them money. But text messages now is the one. Social media. They've had a massive increase in the guise of health authorities, with the NHS, the WHO, some letters are turning up, some emails, some texts. End users are constantly under threat from e-crime, and it's growing at an alarming rate. So what is phishing then? Well, phishing is phishing for targets. Phishing, people call it phishing, and it's not actually called phishing, it's phishing. Hackers are going phishing. They want you on the hook. They changed the spelling as a bit of a doff my cap to a bygone age. The first type of hacking was called phone phreaking. So hackers started to say, we're going phishing, but it's phishing with a PH. And basically they're after your passwords. They're after your work data. They're after control of your computer. They can turn your computer anything. They can use your computer to hack somebody else. They can use your computer as something called a bot, where they have a collection of bots, and then they use them as like a miniature army to attack other places. It's not just emails though, absolutely. This is one that's out there. This is from the government saying that there's a rebate. Click here, you've got £168. If you do click there, that's the payload. When it says access your funds here, as soon as you do that, if your computer isn't locked down properly and got the appropriate controls, you're going to get infected. And if it's good, you won't even know about it. You won't even know about it for ages and ages and ages. And they'll just be sitting in the background in your computer, monitoring you, see what you do. They can even access your webcams. There's another one here. This is from the WHO. Coronavirus safety alert. Please click here to get the latest safety measures. Now, quite innocently, people don't know they're going to do this. So you need to, the only way you're going to do this is education. Educate people, give them the tools to say no. Just say if it doesn't look right, or just don't click on anything really. Okay, so what about spear phishing? So if you imagine someone's going for phishing, they've got a spear with them, they're more targeted. So this is something you might have heard of, spear phishing. They're going to use social engineering to find out about you. With me, if they go onto my Facebook, they'll find out that I'm a really bad golfer. So if I then got an email saying, improve your golf swing, you know what, I might just be tempted. If I can cure my slice, then I might just click on that. So it's targeted to me. It'll be targeted to you. It'll be targeted to what you do. They'll find out about you if you're into cycling, if you're into reel fishing, angling, whatever it is that you do, they'll kind of do that. So the threat actors disguise these attacks in the forms of internal correspondence. They'll even pretend to be your work. Like this is a IT services, which is a bona fide company that offers it for various companies all over the place. And they copied it. They copied the email, they put the payload in there, and anybody clicks on that, boom, their computer's more or less, it's infected. So yeah, they use bait or a lure, they call it. This is part of the phishing. They attempt to spoof the company's guidance and procedures, the human resources, IT messages, anything like that. They are very, very clever. And like I say, they're a bit bored because they're all sat at home. There's more opportunity. People are isolated. They can't just turn around to the next person and say, does this email look weird to you? And they need communication paths, channels to check for everything forwarded to IT. But IT is very busy at the moment. So ransomware then. Ransomware is a cyber attack that renders your computer unavailable, or your data unavailable. And your data is valuable. Data is more valuable than oil. Data is known as crude, or used to be called black gold, but now it's because of GDPR issues and data protection, it's called crude. So they want that data, and they want to stop you from having it, and they're going to charge you for it. 600 credits. Now, 600 credits in Bitcoins is a lot of money. I think Bitcoins are running at about £13,000 each. So if your data costs 600 credits, it's going to be quite a substantial amount of money. I think this one is from a few years back when 600 credits was roughly about £20,000. It's way more than that now. At this point, they are inside your system though, and they've encrypted your data. It's still there, you just can't see it. The only way you can kind of counteract this is backup. Backup. You're going to just submit that you've lost it. You're going to close the paths that they've hacked into you, and then you're going to restore your data. What you don't want to happen is them to encrypt your data and encrypt your backups. So make sure there's some separation. Right, humans. Now, this is the biggest path for any hacker, really. The biggest threat, really, is via humans. Most cyber threats come from this. Knowingly or innocently, most come from within. IT support's overloaded, and the monitoring is reduced. Workers are under pressure. They've been told, get it done. So when you get it done, you're going to bypass security. You're going to do things that you're not supposed to do. If you've got bankers at home in their kitchens approving mortgages, that's never happened before. You've got credit checks being done in people's dining rooms. Yeah, again, it's a strange time. Not all homes have offices. I'm really lucky. I've got an home office, and I've got really good internet as well. So yeah, but some are shared occupancy. Who's in the next room? Some people haven't got gardens. It's very different. Public networks, definitely no. It's a massive no-no. So again, yeah, some extra knowledge here. 34% of data breaches involved internal actors as well. It literally is the insider threat. When I was in the military, the Americans' #1 threat was the insider threat. That then become the UK's #1 threat. So everything we were doing was to stop that. So we've looked at threats, then we're going to go into the other side of the coin. So if we can stop all those threats, we've got no risk. And these are the vulnerabilities you might come across. Well, maybe less than the threats, but we'll go through it. So, but the previous vulnerabilities that you had before COVID, they're still out there. So they should be controlled, but maybe it's more difficult to control them because your IT staff are having to remote in, do things. They're having to talk you through it, maybe take control of your screen. So what new vulnerabilities have emerged? Managing an entire workforce remotely is completely new to most organizations. Companies may lack the processes, the policies, the technologies, and the training to make this safe. It's brand new. They'll get there though, they'll get better. They really will. You've got your home Wi-Fi. Is it secure? Have they got the default password? Have they got, I've went to my local pub, and my local pub always have their admin password displayed. And I keep telling them and they don't care. So it's public Wi-Fi is a no-no, definitely no-no. So don't allow any of your, or train your staff to say, no, don't go log in onto any of this McDonald's Wi-Fi or Starbucks. You've got the Internet of Things. You've got a fridge, which has got Wi-Fi attached to it. So when you take the milk out, it's doing things. It's all constantly looking. Maybe it's broadcasting your Wi-Fi password, or maybe they're going to hack your fridge and then hack your Wi-Fi. This is happening. Okay. Weak passwords. Get them to change to passphrases like, Luke, I am your father. It's my favorite, by the way. So these are the top 10 passwords out there in the whole world. And you've got by country there, by the UK. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just people are lazy. Now, the next, the one down the bottom, QWERTY, it's the top 5 keys on your keyboard, obviously. It's just laziness. It really is. This device is called a pineapple. There's a pineapple, which is, I can pretend to be Wi-Fi. I can listen, I can turn my phone on and I can say what Wi-Fi is available here. Then I can program this device so that I pretend to be the same Wi-Fi. If anybody logs onto my Wi-Fi, I've got their mobile phone. If someone uses their computer, I can hack their phone from my Wi-Fi. So pineapples are well known for being a hacking tool. I saw somebody using one at an airport departures once, and he had it in his backpack. So he's literally getting information off people. They're off on holiday for 2 weeks. He's going to sell the data, because you can find addresses, you can find everything from this. Okay, so also you've got insecure laptops, you've got old software, you've got software updates. How is that happening now? Normally companies don't allow automatic updates, but turn them on while they're at home. It's better to have an updated laptop so there's no vulnerabilities. Windows 7 died this year, another victim of COVID. Well, basically the software ended its life cycle, so it's no longer being patched by Microsoft. They will never, any hole that they find, they'd say, you're on your own. They're saying you need to move to Windows 10. And that's the way they work. Using personal cloud storage like Dropbox, kind of secure, but what are they putting on there? Yeah, maybe they're about to lose their job, so they're taking all the data with them. It's also, if quite innocently, they can be putting stuff on there. And who else has got access? What are they doing with the password? Is their password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The thing is, you've got no control over it. So when it's talking about personal cloud, I would discourage it or train them into it. You've got multi-factor authentication. So when you use your credit card, you're putting in something you have, you're putting your card in. When it says put your PIN in, that's something you know. So these are 2 forms of identification, something you know and something you have. The other one is something you are. So your fingerprint or a retina scan. So these are multi-factor authentication. Get them using them. Automated backups. You've got to have people traveling in to do these backups. So make it all automated. Conference calls. Who's listening in? Who's listening into this one? Now, hopefully, I'm using my personal laptop, which is, I would say, a little bit more secure than my work one. So yes, who's in there? Look, everyone looks behind them at this stage. So yeah, with somebody who's listening, but also insecure video calling. Now Zoom, we're using this platform back in, I think it was April or March. Zoom was hacked quite a bit. It was called Zoom bombing. You can Google it. There's some horrible sites actually. But yeah, people were just randomly jumping in the middle of a Zoom call. There's a famous one that I'm going to show you in a bit. And this is Boris Johnson looking rather unwell, actually. I think he's about to have his illness. He's got COVID there. But you've basically, he got in trouble for this because he shared it. And people analyze this. And all of everyone's Zoom IDs were there. The whole government's there. And Boris's Zoom ID. So people were, before they closed it down, people were Zooming him like 500 times a day just to say hello to him or call him a name. But the scary bit was there was somebody in the middle and nobody knew who it was. And they had the video off. And they were like, well, who is this person? So they eventually got rid of that person. They sort of disconnected him forcibly. But no, the rumor is that it was an investigative journalist that was kind of jumped in. So they've tightened up security now. It's a lot better. So you feel a little bit safe anyway. So in order to change all these things, BSI have come out with some guidance that on our website talks about physical security, patching, passwords, encryption. Yeah, on our website, go in there, you can get some advice. Absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom. However, it might end up going forward into next year. I've got a feeling there's going to be some really high, significant breaches that's going to be leaked to the press. There's going to be GDPR issues. Some of these companies out there, say, mark my words, people have done things too quickly because they had to. So security has been missed. So please don't let that be you. You're going to have negative press, reputational damage. Yeah, like I say, going forward, how to do this, focus on risks, risk assess everything. Prioritize and treat the high risks. Tighten your security posture now. Now that the quick fix has all disappeared. Try intrusion detection methods. If there's anybody in your systems now, try and get rid of them. Write policy to direct new ways of working. Consider some new technology. Awareness training and communications is key, absolutely. So remember, it's all about people, processes, and can't see what the other one is down there. So yes, please be aware. So basically, maybe scared you to death, but thank you for listening. And I hope this was kind of what you were expecting and needed. But yes, if anyone's got any questions now, please go ahead. Or if you need.
I was going to say that's great, Scott. Really, really interesting topic of conversation. We'll open up the floor to questions that people may have. I'd have to say myself personally, I don't think I've been made more hungry by a cyber security presentation than talking about spearfishing and pineapples. So that's definitely two things that have come away from me. But I'm sure we've got some other questions. So if anyone has a question, do you want to put it in the chat? And we'll ask Scott.
Ooh. Let's turn my chat on.
I'll narrate, but just saves people.
Is it best for me to stop sharing my screen then? Is that kind of?
You can do it at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and then I can probably see the chat. Reactions.
There we go.
Chat.
So
there you go.
Chris, your colleague is hopefully throwing you a line here and not a curveball. Do you think there is an age generational difference to victims of phishing?
Absolutely. I was actually gonna. It's a strange story. I was living down in Hitchin and I played golf with a load of older members, and they were all absolutely terrified of getting hacked and doing all this. And I kind of went round to all their kind of houses and set up security, looked at their passwords and all this kind of stuff. And it was literally every one of them. And one person would teach the other person. The older generation yeah, it's too complicated. Some of them don't even want to use their credit cards. They don't want to do the new technology like contactless. They're scared of it. So there is definitely a generational gap, and there will be again for my generation when the new stuff takes over, like the AI and all that comes in.
Next one: are Macs any more or less vulnerable than PCs?
Depends. It's a good question. Over the enterprise, Macs used to be more vulnerable because they were harder to manage. There's some new software now which kind of manages them quite well, and Mac software is a little bit better because there's less of them, so there's less people writing viruses for them. Like I said, they used to be a nightmare. We used to ban them from networks to say because you couldn't do like group policy on them and group control them. But now they're a lot easier to manage, so a lot of big firms are moving over to Macs, but they're just so expensive. They're like, for a decent one, they're like nearly £2,000 and up. The military used iPhones for all their sort of classified calls and communications because they're in-house closed software. So they deem that more safe. However, nothing safe. Literally, just don't, unless you kind of do some sort of VPNs or that kind of thing, don't trust anything. Definitely don't click on anything like that.
Thank you. So that was from Rose Heathcote, our training and University of Buckingham colleagues there. From Sharon, what do you mean by intrusion detection methods?
Well, it's basically software and it's scanning your network. So somebody might be there looking at all your logs, who's accessed what. There is a lot of, I mean, the way to do this is like doing pen testing and having people penetration or vulnerability scans to see who's in there. There's quite a lot. Without going too deep into it, intrusion detection is there anyone in there? Is there anybody already accessing my system? Because like I say, there's going to be people in the next 6 months who are going to be, it's going to leak that they've been hacked and something's happened to them. So get in there now. I can share some good information with you with regards to intrusion detection. It is quite deep. The military is setting up intrusion detection teams that go around and they log onto the network themselves and go. It's called hunter operations, which is quite well. It sounds really Gucci, but the people do it are still just as geeky as all the others. Yeah. So yeah, but who's in your network basically?
Okay, perfect. From Mark Coleman, what is the best way to protect people's home networks when working from home?
Passwords is kind of normally everything. You don't try and bypass anything. VPNs, when you're connecting to the networks, safe, secure methods of connecting to work. Look at all you're only as strong as your weakest device. So look at if people go on there, do they set their passwords to 1, 2, 3? What do they do? The other thing is do they want to get into your system? They probably want a need for it. So they'll want to get into your system, and then they can maybe pivot into your work. So yeah, don't be a target really. So don't advertise if you work for a big company or a bank. Then I wouldn't advertise that because you might become a target. People sit in their car park or close to you in their cars, and they sniff the Wi-Fi, and then they'll try and hack your Wi-Fi that way. Passwords, make sure it's a decent modern Wi-Fi router and not a really old one that's got default admin as the password. So yeah, car park surfing is kind of where to go. But unless they know that you're a valid target, yeah, they're kind of maybe leave you alone.
That's great. And just off the back of that, it was you mentioned VPN as part of that, but how much more of a benefit do you get by using a VPN on home as you do in a non-corporate environment?
Well, all my friends, they all pay for private VPNs, everything they do, but they're very paranoid, and they kind of say that literally everything you do with a laptop that's not encrypted is out there. There's a footprint, whatever you do. So I would say there's some of these, I think it was advertising, there was one the other day, it works out to be something like £1 a month or something like that. So definitely get one for personal use. Then you can go to McDonald's and you go to Starbucks and you can fire up your laptop and you can surf away, and you are going to be, no one's going to try and hack you. Even Pineapples, with regards to a fake Wi-Fi, they're pretty good with that. They'll help you with that as well. I would definitely, I don't have one because I've never sort of, I've got other monitoring things going on, but my friends, they visit with dodgy websites. Part of their job, obviously. So, I mean, you got places like the dark web, and every time people access that, then their IP address, and they can be traced, but then they know what they're doing.
Yeah, perfect. And I think you mentioned a bit about it being a vulnerability, but software and hardware, keeping up to date, sort of any advice on maybe hardware cycles? Because I know my laptop's a few years old now. When's the best time to change?
Yep. Well, I mean, at the moment, if you've got anything over about 4 years old, you might be in trouble, because there's something called the TPM module, which are built into all websites, all laptops and the hardware actually, which is a trusted module or platform module, which enables hard encryption onto the device. So anything over that age didn't have them, so they can kind of. But then any device can really be infected. Just make sure they're kept up to date with virus software, antivirus, anti-malware. Have a combination of free ones. If you're going to go the free ones, I mean, I use AVG and another one. You can, because one virus can bypass AVG, for instance, and then won't get through Kilgetty or something else. So multiple loading, and Windows Defender is kind of good as well, to sort of just bolster your. There's a bit of a saying that, I mean, you don't have to be the fastest person in the jungle, you just have to be faster than the slowest person. So you just kind of make yourself unappetizing. Don't be. There are people out there who have no security on their laptops at all. I mean, I've got my webcam here. There's a little slider thing. Always turn them off. There's quite a famous picture of Bill Gates with with these little sliders on his laptop. So if he can't be secure, then no one can be secure. Laptops, again, you just do your best, and if you're not the slowest in the jungle, you'll be all right.
Fantastic. And is there a way that if you have been infected, and as you say, it could be for a number of days, weeks, months before you even notice, but is there some key signs to look out for in terms of files and weird file names, things like that?
It's kind of weird activity. They normally, if it depends how good they are or bad they are, you would never know if like a foreign intelligence agency was to hack you. You would never know. It would definitely, if it was more of like a low tech sort of, if they've downloaded some software from a dodgy site and they're using that on you, that it's no, because I mean, sometimes the webcams, they come on and you wouldn't even know that. The only thing really is your log files. Is if you can go into your log files and work out, well, who is using your computer at what time, and that kind of stuff. But you can do, we always recommend as well, resetting your computer. The trouble with resetting computer, everyone goes, oh, I've got to put all my new passwords in. But you reset your computer every 6 months, it feels like a brand new laptop. They get slow every 6 or 12 months, and you think, oh, I need to buy a new laptop, but you don't. You just reboot it. If it's F10 or F11 and it comes up factory reset, do a factory reset. If you've got your passwords memorized, which hopefully you have and not written down, or if you have gotten written down somewhere safe, then get all your passwords. If you've got a brand new laptop, anybody in there, if they've left anything that's malicious, is gone. So that's kind of, you'd probably never know if someone really wanted to get into your system for a valid reason, obviously to make money off you. Then the only way you can do it is just sort of like, you can download some of the software you download sometimes comes and is malware itself. You probably need a professional to look at it if you any thoughts on that. But just the only thing a professional is going to do is reboot it all. He's going to do a factory reset on it and then charge you 100 quid.
Well, that's me not sleeping tonight. No. So brilliant point from Chris from BSI, saying that obviously in Business MK there's some fantastic cybersecurity tips for SMEs in the November edition of Business MK. So a little plug there. We don't mind those when it's the Business MK one. But Chris did have, if there's no more questions, we'll thank Scott for his wonderful talk and Q&A. And we'll pass to Chris, who had an interesting story about a casino and a fish tank that we must hear.
Well, I'm judging by that reaction, I think Scott might know the one I'm going to talk about. But there was in, I think about 2017, maybe 2018, there was one of the big Las Vegas casinos had all the information of its top 100 biggest customers stolen by a hacker. And the way they got in through was a fish tank that they had, which was connected to IoT. So if the temperature differed by more than 0.5 degrees or whatever, there'd be an automatic reaction to it. And while all their computers, etc., were fully protected, it was on the same Wi-Fi as this fish tank, which they just managed to get in through, maybe with no password or maybe just the simplest thing. And they managed to steal, I'm not sure if they actually got anything monetarily out of it, but they certainly got the personal information of like the 100 biggest spenders. And this is at a Las Vegas casino turning over billions of pounds a year. So I guess it goes back to that, you're only as strong as your weakest point of entry.
Yeah.
Which is quite scary.
That is.
I'm going to turn my fridge off Wi-Fi tonight when I get back.
Yeah. Damn baby monitors, I tell you, that's going to get me. It's when they flicker and you think, is someone having me? One last question came in. Thank you, Chris, for that. That was fantastic. One last question came in for Scott. Is that the reset, does the reset work with Macs, or is that another lovely Mac foible that means that you can do these little tricks?
I was going to answer that in the chat. Yeah, that's a good question. I think they're not as susceptible to as normal PCs. They are more secure in that area because they're a closed software system. There is a reset button with the Mac. You can do it, but they are definitely more secure. The problem with Macs, like I say beforehand, used to be they were just hard to control and people just were allowed to do anything they wanted, which caused its own problems. But now I think Macs are getting their act together and they are becoming more secure, definitely. And they're less susceptible to stuff like this because of the closed software, whereas Windows PCs are all open, and yeah, there's a lot more viruses for them.
So Mr. Gibbs has said, put out the naysayers warning there of, is IoT a good thing or a dangerous thing? And obviously with Alexas and Google Assistants popping up everywhere, turning on people's lights, we know.
Well, and the Alexa's what a different problem. Alexa and the Google, that's all big data, and what they create profiles on you, and then they sell your data on if they're allowed to, depending on what part of the country. That's big data's quite dangerous. The IoT will be amazing. There's talk of bringing it onto a separate network, which is a lot less vulnerable to everything. It's early days with IoT, but the BSI are working alongside quite a lot of professors and clever people to make IoT standards that are really, really secure. So I think definitely the early systems of IoT. I mean, we did a demonstration in a STEM event where we hacked into a kettle, and it was actually, we hacked the kettle before they had a chance to boil it and make a cup of tea. It was one we'd bought straight away from I think it was Curry's PC World or something. But it's becoming more and more security built in. So IoT is definitely going to be one for the future, because they're going to, who else is going to drive your car? Your car's going to need to get from A to B, from the pub back home when you got self-driving car, and that's all going to run off IoT. So it needs to be secure, otherwise it'll take you to the wrong place.
Fantastic, thank you. And some interesting points around some further viewing by Chris there, The Social Dilemma on Netflix, which I did see flash up in the top rank this week, which is talking about big data. And then there was the last question there about backups. How, what's the best way to separate your backup? Obviously, you've got external hard drives, but is there something a bit more automated, a bit more secure?
You've got access to them from your house. You can do external drives and stuff like that, because you're keeping them secure. So if you're talking corporate sort of ones, then everyone seems to be moving to the cloud and having multiple cloud storage backups with using AWS on one side and maybe Azure on another side. But with regards to small networks and home networks, other than physically having it stolen, having a hard drive, you can get 2 terabyte ones, 3 terabyte ones for really cheap. Storage is cheap, or you can use your private backups on places like is it OneDrive? I think I pay for Office 365, which again is kind of against all my kind of. I've kind of moved over out to the dark side. I accept everything corporate nowadays. So yeah, you can use their 1 terabyte, and Microsoft are very well, as safe as anybody. It's safer than most, and the same as Amazon. It's never been reported that they've been hacked. Anyway, the first person that does will become a legend. It will be it'll be like the David Beckham of hacking. So, and they definitely will not keep that quiet. So it's not like Amazon, unless they obviously, because Amazon are Skynet apparently. Just for to mention that.
God, am I right in thinking Google have a competition that they run sort of once a year, where they basically say it's £10 million to the first person to hack this?
Yeah, you have bug bounties and stuff, and will put. I think they put their Chromebooks up against and say, please come and hack us. I don't know if it's £10 million though, because the only system I know that's never been hacked is HP OpenView, HP VAS, and that's got £1 million bounty on it down in Earls Court every year, and that's never been hacked. But it's becoming that old that you can't fit any devices into it. There's nothing like there's like using OS2 connectors, and it don't even accept a USB stick. It's like that old.
I've got a 3.5-inch floppy somewhere around here that
yeah, that might get in there. But
insert your own jokes, people. But yeah, that's it. Fantastic, and a great recommendation for Synology NADs. I know they're those big terabyte boxes. There's I don't know if if you want to give a bit more background. It's great to welcome you to today's meeting, but just for those that don't know what they are, it'd be great to share your experience.
I was going to say 3.5 inches called a stiffy. The 5 1/4 was the floppy.
Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, he's right.
So now I'm showing my age. That's me trying to make things up. Oh, Fantastic. Well, I think that's the end of the questions, and in good time. I'm going to hand back over to Andrew, but before I do, to close the meeting, can everyone please give Scott a big round of applause for his wonderful talk there.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Right, I'm going to go and leave you to it. I'm going to prep for tomorrow.
Just before you do, Scott, thank you very much for sparing the time to talk to us today. It's been really interesting, really informative, really enlightening, and I'm looking forward to putting this recording out to our the club members and the wider business community, because there's some really important stuff I think they need to know about.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Really
cheers.
good. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.